In the heart of a vast, sun-drenched jungle lived an elephant named Bola. He was the biggest, strongest creature for miles around. And oh, he knew it. With every thunderous step, he would trumpet his might, shaking the very ground beneath him. He would snap thick branches for fun and spray water on smaller animals just to watch them scurry away. Pride was his shadow, and it grew larger every day. One sweltering afternoon, as Bola stomped his way to the river, he saw a tiny ant named Chotu diligently carrying a grain of rice many times its own size. Bola scoffed, a deep rumble in his chest. "You pathetic little speck!" he boomed. "Look at you, struggling with that tiny crumb. Step aside before I crush you without even noticing." Chotu, the ant, paused and looked up at the colossal elephant. Unafraid, he replied in his small but clear voice, "Oh, mighty Bola, size is not everything. A day may come when even you might need the help of someone as small as me." Bola let out a deafening laugh that echoed through the trees. "Me? Need your help? That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Now get out of my way." And with a flick of his trunk, he sent a puff of air that blew Chotu and his rice grain tumbling into a bush. Chotu picked himself up, shook the dust off, and without another word went back to his work. He knew arguing with pride was like trying to stop the wind. Days turned into weeks. Bola continued his arrogant rampage through the jungle, while Chotu and his colony worked together, day in and day out, preparing for the coming monsoon. They built intricate tunnels, reinforced their anthill, and stored food with tireless dedication. One day, a group of hunters entered the jungle. They weren't looking for deer or boar. They were after the grandest prize of all, a magnificent elephant. They had heard tales of Bola and had come prepared. They dug a massive pit, deep and wide, and covered it cunningly with leaves, branches, and a thin layer of earth. That very afternoon, Bola was strutting through a part of the jungle he rarely visited, boasting to a family of monkeys about his unparalleled strength. Not paying attention to where he was going, he stepped right onto the concealed trap. The ground gave way beneath him with a terrifying crack. With a panicked trumpet, Bola plunged into the deep pit. He crashed to the bottom, dazed and terrified. The pit was too deep to climb, its walls too steep and smooth. He pushed and heaved, ramming his body against the earthen walls, but it was no use. All his might, all his strength was useless. He was trapped. Fear, a feeling he hadn't known for a long time, gripped his heart. He trumpeted for help, his calls echoing through the jungle, but now they were filled with desperation, not pride. The animals he had once terrorized heard his cries, but they were too afraid to come near. Night fell, and Bola was left alone with his fear and regret. The next morning, his voice hoarse from shouting, Bola had almost given up hope. Suddenly, he heard a tiny voice from the edge of the pit. "Are you all right down there, Bola?" He looked up and saw a familiar little creature, Chotu the ant. Bola felt a pang of shame. "Chotu!" he whispered, his voice trembling. I am trapped. The hunters will be back soon. I am doomed." Chotu looked down at the humbled giant. He didn't say, "I told you so." He didn't mock him. Instead, he said, "Hold on, Bola, don't lose hope. My colony is nearby. We will help you." Bola couldn't believe his ears. "You? How can you and your tiny friends possibly help me?" Chotu simply replied, "You once told me that you could crush me without noticing. Well, we are so small that the hunters won't notice us either. Wait here." Chotu scurried back to his anthill and rallied his entire colony. Thousands upon thousands of ants marched in a long, disciplined line towards the pit. When they arrived, Chotu gave the command. They swarmed down one side of the pit, the side that sloped most gently. Then they began to work. Each ant picked up a single grain of dirt and carried it to the bottom of the pit. One by one, grain by grain, they started building a ramp. It was slow, painstaking work. Hours passed. The sun climbed high in the sky. Bola watched in utter amazement. The tiny specks he had once scorned were working together with a unity and determination he had never seen. The pile of earth grew, slowly but surely. It was a mountain built from molehills, a ramp built from single grains of dirt. By late afternoon, the ramp was high enough. It wasn't perfect, but it reached a point where Bola could get a foothold. The hunters' voices could be heard in the distance, getting closer. "Now, Bola, try now!" shouted Chotu. Gathering all his remaining strength, Bola placed his front feet on the ramp the ants had built. He pushed, his muscles straining. The earthen ramp held, He scrambled, he slipped, but he kept pushing, and finally, with a mighty heave, he pulled himself out of the pit. He stood on solid ground, breathing heavily, covered in dirt, but free. He looked at the hunter's pit, then at the thousands of ants, and finally at Chotu, who was perched on a leaf nearby. Bola slowly lowered himself to his knees, bringing his giant head down to the tiny ant's level. The ground trembled, but this time it was with humility. "Chotu," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I was a fool. I was arrogant and cruel. My strength trapped me, but your wisdom and your friend's hard work set me free. You were right. Size is not everything. Can you ever forgive me?" Chotu looked at the giant elephant, whose eyes were filled with genuine remorse. "There is nothing to forgive, Bola. We all have our strength. Yours is might and ours is unity. Today we learned that when we respect each other and work together, there is no obstacle we cannot overcome." From that day forward, Bola the elephant was a changed creature. He was still the mightiest animal in the jungle, but he no longer used his strength to bully or intimidate. Instead, he became the protector of the small, the guardian of the weak. He would often be seen gently clearing paths for Chotu and his colony, and he always remembered the profound lesson he learned from the wise little ant, that true strength lies not in size or power, but in humility, wisdom, and the courage to help others no matter how small they may seem. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales from the heart of the jungle.
Have you ever heard the saying, "A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush"? It's a classic piece of wisdom, but sometimes we forget just how true it is. Today, I want to share a story with you, a simple fable that perfectly illustrates a powerful and often destructive human flaw: greed. This isn't just a children's tale. It's a mirror that reflects a part of ourselves we often ignore. It's the story of the dog and his reflection, and it holds a lesson that's as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. Picture this, a beautiful sunny day. A lucky dog, let's call him Rocky, is trotting happily along a country road. He's just been to the local butcher's shop, and clamped firmly in his jaws is a magnificent juicy bone. It's not just any bone. It's the kind of bone dogs dream about. It's got plenty of meat still clinging to it, and the marrow inside promises a feast. Rocky feels like the king of the world. He's proud of his prize, and his tail wags a triumphant rhythm as he makes his way home. His plan is simple: find a quiet spot, lie down in the sun, and enjoy his treasure in peace. His journey takes him to a small, narrow wooden bridge that crosses over a calm, clear stream. The water is so still that it acts like a perfect polished mirror. As Rocky starts to cross the bridge, he glances down. What does he see? He sees another dog in the water, looking right back up at him. And this other dog? Well, this other dog also has a bone in its mouth. Now, here's where things get interesting. Rocky stops dead in his tracks. He stares intently at his reflection. Because the water slightly magnifies the image, the bone in the reflection's mouth looks bigger, way bigger. It looks juicier, meatier, and altogether more magnificent than the one he's holding. His own bone, which just moments ago felt like the greatest prize in the world, suddenly seems small and insignificant. A thought begins to bubble up in Rocky's mind. A greedy, selfish thought. Why should I settle for this small bone? He thinks. When I can have that much bigger one? I'm stronger than that dog. I can easily scare him off and take his bone. Then I'll have two bones. The idea of having both bones, of doubling his treasure, is just too tempting to resist. The satisfaction he felt just a minute ago is completely gone, replaced by an overwhelming desire for more. He's completely forgotten about the delicious bone already in his possession. All he can see is the bigger prize just out of reach. His mind is consumed by envy and a powerful surge of greed. He puffs out his chest, trying to look as fierce and intimidating as possible. He's ready to challenge this other dog and claim what he believes should be his. With his decision made, Rocky leans over the edge of the bridge, stares down at his own reflection, and opens his mouth wide to let out a ferocious bark. He intends to frighten the other dog into dropping its magnificent bone so he can snatch it up. But the moment his jaws part, the inevitable happens. Plop, his own precious juicy bone, the very one he was so proud of, falls from his mouth. It tumbles through the air, hits the water with a splash, and sinks quickly to the bottom of the stream, lost forever. And as his bone disappears, so does the reflection. The other dog, the one with the bigger bone, vanishes in the ripples. Rocky stands there on the bridge, stunned into silence. He's left with nothing. The water settles, and he can see his own foolish reflection staring back at him, mouth empty. In his greedy attempt to get more, he lost everything he had. He had a perfectly good meal, a reason to be happy and content. But his desire for something that wasn't even real, his inability to appreciate what he possessed, left him with an empty stomach and a heavy heart. This story isn't really about a dog, is it? It's about us. How many times have we been in Rocky's position? Maybe not with a bone and a stream, but in our jobs, our relationships, or our finances. We have something good, something we should be grateful for, but then we see what someone else has, or what we think they have. We see their bigger bone on social media, in the news, or just next door. It might be a nicer car, a better job, a more glamorous vacation. And suddenly, what we have doesn't seem good enough anymore. Contentment flies out the window, replaced by envy and the hungry ghost of greed. We start chasing a reflection, an illusion of something better, without appreciating the real, solid value of what's already in our hands. We risk a stable job for a risky venture that promises a quick fortune. We neglect a loving partner because we re-chasing the fantasy of a perfect relationship we see in movies. We spend money we don't have to keep up with appearances, chasing a lifestyle that isn't ours. The danger of greed is that it's insatiable. It's a black hole. The more you feed it, the bigger it gets. It blinds you to the blessings you already have and convinces you that happiness is always just one more acquisition away. But it's a lie. True happiness and satisfaction come from gratitude, from appreciating the bone you've already got. When we let greed take over, we end up like Rocky on the bridge, foolish, empty-handed, and full of regret. We lose the real, tangible good in our lives in the pursuit of an illusion. We drop our bone into the water. The story teaches us a timeless lesson. Be content with what you have. Cherish your blessings, big and small. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. Sometimes it's just a reflection in the water. So the next time you find yourself looking at someone else's bone and feeling that pang of envy, take a moment. Think of Rocky. Take a look at the real wonderful things in your own life that you can hold, that you can enjoy right now. Don't drop your treasure while chasing a shadow. Because in the end, it is far better to enjoy the one real bone you have than to be left with nothing at all. What do you think? Have you ever had a Rocky the dog moment in your own life? Share your experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories and your thoughts on this. It's a conversation we all need to have. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this little bit of food for thought, please give this video a like and subscribe for more content just like this. See you in the next one.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a classic tale that's as entertaining as it is wise. It's the story of a rooster who is a little too proud for his own good. Let's get into it. Once upon a time, in a lively little farmyard, lived a rooster. But this wasn't just any rooster. Oh no, this one had the most magnificent, colorful tail feathers you've ever seen. Reds, greens, golds, they shimmered in the sunlight like a rainbow. And boy, did he know it. Every single morning, instead of a simple cock-a-doodle-doo, he'd puff out his chest, strut around the coop, and bellow. Look at me! Am I not the most splendid creature you've ever laid eyes on? My voice is the clearest, my comb is the reddest, and my tail, well, my tail is simply a masterpiece. The other farm animals would just roll their eyes. The hens would cluck amongst themselves, the ducks would quack in amusement, and the old, wise owl would hoot softly from the barn rafters, thinking, pride often struts just before a stumble. One sunny afternoon, a sly fox was prowling near the farm. He heard the roosteress' boastful cries from a distance, and a cunning idea sparked in his mind. Such a proud bird, the fox thought with a grin. His vanity might just be his undoing. The fox crept closer, hiding behind a large bush. He called out in a voice full of flattery, "Oh, magnificent rooster! I have traveled far and wide, but I have never heard a voice as powerful and beautiful as yours. It's said that your father was the greatest singer in the land. They say he could sing so beautifully that he would close his eyes to concentrate, reaching notes no one else could." The rooster's chest swelled with even more pride. "My father, he was a legend, but I, of course, am even better," he crowed. The fox's grin widened. "I have no doubt," he said smoothly. "But could you show me?" It's a powerful reminder for all of us. Pride really does come before a fall. Being confident is great, but letting arrogance blind you can lead you right into a trap. What did you guys think of this story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's a classic for a reason.